Yeah, Don, huge thanks for having us here and to everyone who's joined us in conversation. I'm very glad that that chance encounter in San Antonio happened so it could sort of lead to today. And sort of it's, as Don said, a bit of a long road for us in the education sector. Wendy and I are really the first two education specific hires that Airtable has made with sort of a growing commitment company-wide to one, better serving your needs, but also better understanding some of the constraints that you have as a highly regulated industry. And again, we'll talk to some of the trends that we're seeing externally that we think and we believe that systems like Airtable, sort of this no-code space, are ultimately going to have profound impact across the next decade and beyond. And so, to that end, I want to make sure that we get a chance to quickly introduce the Airtable team that's joining you here today and a little bit about our background. And so, we'll start with Brandy, sort of the star of our show, I'd say.
Oh my goodness, that's a high bar that you just set for me. It is so fantastic to be here, though. I have the coolest job of everyone at Airtable. I absolutely love it. I get to work with folks all across the globe, from folks such as yourselves, all the way through to enterprise grade businesses, talk about what the value of no code Airtable and really understanding the nuance and what we can do to really support folks like y'all as you are building out and trying to support and understand your business and drive things creatively to fruition. So it's a lot of fun. And then the other 50% of the time, I get to go up on stage and talk about Airtable, AI, ethics. I absolutely love it. It's the coolest. And today, I get to share a whole bunch of really exciting information around Airtable, specifically tailored to y'all's needs. So we're going to dig into some fun examples. Any questions that you have regarding compliance or anything along the way, please feel free, drop it in the chat, come off mute. We're here. I want to make sure that I get you guys the information that you need. So, really looking forward to it. Matt?
Thanks for joining, Brandy. I'll kick it to Wendy because I got like two more slides that I'm going to
All
continue
right.
with before I pull you back in. So, Wendy, up to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Wendy Perk. As Matt said, we're the education team at Airtable. We work with a lot of universities and K-12 districts that are deploying these no-code solutions. My background is in EdTech my entire career. I've been in it for longer than I'd like to admit. But it's been really fantastic to just follow like the evolution of technology and digital transformation in education. So very excited to speak with all of you today. Thanks. Nat?
Awesome. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Brandy. I will hopefully do as little talking as possible today so that these two can steal the stage. But my name's Matt Logan. I started my career in education, career services, pivoted and became a special ed teacher before ultimately joining the Peace Corps and serving in a rural high school setting in Ethiopia. I like to say I've slowly but surely weaseled my way onto the tech side of education technology, but very excited to help lead our strategy alongside Wendy here at Airtable. In today's conversation, again, you've now sort of heard a little bit about our backgrounds, and they're probably nowhere near as impressive as your own. And so know that we don't know everything, and we want to make sure that this is, in fact, a conversation. So whether that is coming off mute, sharing your insights in the chat, please make sure that you ask questions or provide your own insight from the way in which you're seeing this at your own institution. We're going to try to be as engaging as possible, both in dialogue as well as throughout sort of our presentation, asking you all to chime in. We'll have a couple of polls that we'll leverage QR codes for. And if that isn't incentive enough to sort of pay attention, stay till the end. We are happy to be raffling off a pair of sort of Airtable branded Beats headphones. And so if you stay till the end, we'll take a quick list of the participants. If you don't want to be included in that or you don't want your information shared, please just feel free to indicate to Don or I in the chat privately, and we'll make sure that we get you removed from that list. In terms of where we want to spend our time today, first is, okay, we're talking about no code, but how do we actually define that? And how has that sort of no code industry evolved across time? And then based on sort of the trends that we're seeing in education, why do we think that it's a particularly strong moment to explore no code for you all as small colleges? We'll give a couple of examples of how we've seen that successfully deployed and then ultimately what that has resulted in terms of impact, value, ROI, before we give you some tips and tricks to how to get started and where we can go from today's conversation. Any questions, comments, concerns before I kick it to Brandy to really run the show?
Floor is yours.
All right.
All right, amazing. All right, so we have seen across the board that small colleges need scalable solutions that are going to grow with your needs without requiring a bunch of extensive, deep technical prowess or expertise. So that's really the why behind Airtable and no-code platforms in general, right? It's going to allow non-technical staff to be able to actually create, modify workflows, understand the business, understand exactly, whether it's campaigns that you're running or students and rosters or donation dollars. So it doesn't matter what the use case is, being able to create and modify and enable that scalability without additional costs is going to be absolutely critical. So I personally like to throw this in there because I think it is really critical for us to have some understanding of what Airtable is. And I also hate showing up to things like this and having to wait until like somewhere in the end to actually see what we're talking about. So, are y'all ready to get to the fun part? Yeah, I think so. I am. All right. So, what you're seeing here is actually an example of how we've been able to further enhance and leverage AI inside of a no code application so that way we can build out faster and empower folks such as yourselves to be able to really create anything that you are dreaming up in that current time. You're going to be able to build that application of your dreams by using this thing, CoBuilder. Donald brought this up earlier, where you can just write in a prompt and AI is going to actually help generate and create the entire platform and application for you, creating all of the areas that you need to be able to capture, track, monitor, and report back on information. So using AI in this capacity is going to really allow for faster onboarding of new staff and processes. You could drive adoption of the tech across all of the teams, improving your overall efficiency, and really no custom software development needed. That is the dream in the future state of truly transformative no-code applications. So we've also seen that there's some really great numbers to latch onto if you're trying to justify bringing a tool like this into your school. 20 to 50% reduction in software costs because you are really consolidating, bringing out the best of the best for those that you're delivering this app to, but also getting off of things like spreadsheets and other really homegrown tooling that you've been using to date. There's also 10 to 30% lower IT support here due to that, reduced reliance on custom built or heavily integrated systems. So this is not the last that you'll see of Airtable today, but I just wanted to put it out there so we have a little context as we continue to move down and talk about what we're seeing trend-wise across small colleges, universities, and the EDU space. All right, so the history of no code. Let's figure out, how do we get to where we are? Early on, we back 50s to the 90s, as you can see here, early foundations, spreadsheet, you have drag and drop development. Moving on, we have this rise of web and business apps. Moving forward to modern no-code revolution of, some of the other great applications that Donald brought up earlier, really driving towards this large adoption and utilization of tooling that's hyper tailored without all of the costs of getting IT involved. Now, the future is really what you're seeing when you see that past movie that we were just watching, where you have AI empowered no code. So getting even further down the line, being able to clearly articulate your vision by just using a really strong prompt and the right generative AI to help you create that application. Now, this, of course, we can move on to the next slide, but we've seen a couple of different areas of tension come up over time, point solutions, highly tailored IT deployed solutions, all the way through to trying to glom together a bunch of different sources of truth through spreadsheets or, anywhere else across your university. We can go on, Matt, if you don't mind. But folks are really adopting this no code application because it is accelerating the ability to be responsive, adaptive, creative, and to create these hyper tailored, customized experiences for everyone that you are interacting with. Now, benefits of no code specifically to y'all, and we have some really great benchmarks out there. Gartner did a report not too long ago saying that no code and low code platforms reduce app development times by up to 70%. Now, I don't think any of us, given what we do, have that much time to really invest in building out these custom apps. So we kind of go path of least resistance. And to save up that time, Airtable has everything from templates, AI generative applications, but ways to bring all of your information together and start to really interact and deliver the best results possible. And we also have, impacts on operational efficiencies written out here. A really great report by Forrester Wave, 20 to 30% increase in operational efficiency. Again, once you start that data consolidation motion, bringing together everyone from, current folks, students, peers, donors, doesn't matter what it is, start bringing that people data together and put it into process where folks can interact, engage with that data, keep it in real time, and actually be able to do exactly what it is that you want to do. And we have a couple of different examples that we're going to dig into a little bit later, really focused on, CRM management, marketing campaign management, donor management, and just dig into some of the bits there and what we're able to see trend-wise for results and the ability to really address the needs of those specific targeted use cases. Now, we have a super fun Slido that's a little bit about no code. There's a lot that we could dig into, but for the sake of time, we'd encourage y'all to take a moment, take a screenshot of this Slido QR code, and we'd love to hear more about what your no code strategy and your journey is currently to date. Also, if you've been, out with any resistance along the way, love to be able to talk through some of that. Now, as these are coming in, if you want to get off mute and ask any questions, we can definitely dig in.
Yeah. Or any context for sort of your response here. Would love to understand how you all have started to approach no code strategies and solution sets at your own institutions.
I was gonna say, I just question, so no code, but you still got to kind of have somebody that is familiar with our technical, I guess, right? To try to put some of this stuff together. Maybe knows a little bit of coding, I guess, to kind of get some of this stuff together, or is it really like using Word or a WYSIWYG editor kind of thing,
Yeah,
type deal stuff, and there's no code whatsoever that they need.
no code necessary. It's
Yeah.
really, I feel like it sounds insane because I think we've all gone through the cycles where it's like, well, it's no code, but you need to build this stuff out. We've baked in AI at every level of this application, so we can actually leverage that to build out automations and alerts and sequencing. We can build out AI to keep our data high fidelity and controlled and deduped. You can standardize on it. Like, there are little ways that have allowed us to be able to truly stand by that no code comment, and it's really evolved in the past 2 years now.
But it would really, I was looking on the website and all the stuff, and I saw the integrations and stuff, and we use Gensbar. I think there's some other people that use Gensbar, so I don't know if you have any Gensbar integrations. That was going to be one of my questions, but I would assume you would have to get these API integrations set up. So there is some technical, I guess, that would have to be done like maybe a little bit of a lift at the beginning. Like we're small. I'm the coder here. We have two people, but I'm also the VP, so I don't have a lot of time to code anymore. But so that it really interests me. But just trying to. I have people that I'm trying to pass off roles, but I don't have time to teach them PowerShell like I know, you know what I mean? So trying to look at ways to do some of the things that I'm doing, but without doing the code that I was doing before. So it sounds like there would be a little bit of lift up front to get integrations and maybe some things set up, but then you could potentially hand it off. And I would assume that would be an implementation type deal, right?
Yeah.
cost to multiple integrations, or is integrations a different cost, or yeah, and I'm sure you're going to get to, I don't know if you're going to get to cost later, or you would get with us individually, probably kind of thing on a cost.
Yeah.
But that's always the question with us small colleges is, was it cost too? So
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
quit talking.
No, it's
No, that makes sense. I was like trying to track down all the questions when it comes to the integrations point, Matt, and then I'm going to kick it over to you to answer the rest of them. But the integrations point of it, great call out. Once you get all of your data centralized in or synced in, then it truly is that drag and drop, AI, generative, like no coding at that point, which is also really great when you are scaling out and you're bringing in new people, new hands to be able to create the system of their dreams to do whatever they need to do without putting a bunch of extra burden on the IT resources or folks that are more technically skilled, such as yourself. The integrations point, I am not familiar with that tool. So, Matt, is that something that you've heard of before? Has this come up?
yeah. I would
All
say
right.
again, across like common education ERPs, Matthew, you're right, we'll want to attach via API. And there's obviously been a long list of institutions who are moving through these monolithic migrations to upgrade those student information systems ERPs. I think for us, there's a broad level of sophistication. Yeah, we want end users to feel empowered to do sort of those no code solutions for the small departmental sort of workload niche workflows that they have. But we do want to be code friendly in the way that, yes, we believe we're set up for the enterprise in that we can build and bring over sophisticated data sets, sort of partition out those data sets to the right departments, colleges, individuals, whatever it might be, so that they can then use that to build their own application. So happy to discuss sort of finer points there, but you bring up sort of this natural tug and pull of, well, how much do we really want it to be no code? Because from a central IT perspective, there's settings and governance that we do want to control. There's sophistication in terms of these other solution sets we want to pull in. And so we try to play that right balance of giving you the tools you need to do both. Wendy, anything you'd add there? I know you came on and off mute.
Well, I echo the same some thoughts here. We do, like in the case of Airtable, we do have a lot of standard integrations that are kind of plug and play, but more legacy systems are going to leverage APIs for that.
And that's you mentioned bringing data in, so I was thinking it was more of a solution, workflows and programs, and then it would it would go access data from other. But you're saying you would actually bring, so it's actually kind of like a data lake or data warehouse, and I'm assuming that ties into the Air table, like a SQL table or a database table kind of thing.
Relational database.
Relational
Yeah.
database, kind of thing. I got you. So that leads to, and I'm sure, of course, you're like every other vendor, you got all the PEC-VAT and the security and the SOC 2 and FERPA compliant and all that good stuff. You're already in other higher ed institutions, right?
That's exactly right. We've made a big concerted effort to bolster our HECVAT, our VPAT. We have a new accessibility roadmap, especially with some of the compliance efforts around accessibility coming up for 2026 deadline. So all of these things are a big reason and sort of heart behind Wendy and I's work here at Airtable.
And I don't mean to, monopolize the conversation, but nobody else is asking questions, but I would like to see, or a question I would have, the only other question I would have is, what is like the biggest higher ed, most common thing? Like, is it, this application, or you showed a CRM, or is it this workflow? I mean, what is the most common higher ed application or thing or code or thing you see? I know you can be totally customizable to whatever, but is there
Yeah.
one that you kind of see a lot of that, trying to wrap my head around how we could use it in higher ed specifically?
Matthew, ask your question again in about 10 minutes.
And Matthew, I would say I was ahead of you. I read your mind, and they can say I sent an email. I knew that this question would come up in regards to some of the regulation pieces because it's something we all battle with. But
yeah,
I turn it back over to you guys.
That's awesome. Now, Matthew, these are great questions, and thank you for sort of allowing us a natural pause in the conversation. I would be interested, we've got a pretty big variety of answers here in the poll. sounds like most folks are experimenting, running pilots. Has anyone seen sort of early success in deploying no code? It definitely does not have to be Airtable related. Just curious to understand how folks are starting to deploy it or strategize around it.
Um, So yeah, so really quickly, like I said, I was dealing with it. So yeah, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and like I said, you guys were sort of the stalwart in no code communities about in terms of tying back as a database. So ultimately, we were dealing with some, and I think it was during COVID time where we did uh, a glide front end and we had a back end, and I think it was just to be able to um, register people that was coming in and out of the building. So that project went really well. We had a couple of other projects that we worked with within academic, but to Matthew's point, I was the one that was actually doing it, and I got busy, so some of it fell to the wayside. But now that I'm seeing some of the stuff that's happening, it's definitely piqued my interest again.
That's great. Well, hopefully contextualizing some of this into the small college context will also help folks to see where and why this might be important. And so again, we've sort of talked about no code history, what it is, where we're sort of seeing future trends. But now I want to pull this into the education, in particular, the small college context. And likely much of this is no new news to you all, but I think helps paint this picture of a call for efficiency across higher education writ large right now. So, of course, can't have a conversation in education without talking about enrollment and enrollment trends. And I think all of us are pretty well versed in Nathan Graw's work around the demographic shift and cliff that's coming. The thing that I sort of add as an update to this in terms of, the dictated decline, the college going rate, the clear thing that is happening, and I just saw something in the Chronicle, is that large and selective institutions continue to win this market share. And so for small colleges, we know that there's going to be a continued sort of effort around one, how do we find enrollment? How do we sort of cut through the noise and dictate a value proposition that's intriguing to our students? But we know inherently there could or might be some enrollment decline depending on if you're a regional public, a regional private, a smaller institution. It's going to help sort of provide that pressure for, okay, what decisions do we need to make internally around our tooling, around our staffing that allow us to maintain sort of financial viability? And, I think, again, not to be doom and gloom, but we're seeing this as a pressure writ large in the small college terrain. The idea of the federal funding, state allocations are decreasing. We are also buyers and purchasers of real estate and maintenance costs that are following sort of inflationary costs, some shifts in the international trend market, that political climate demanding efficiency, and inevitably this sort of value of a college degree being called into question. It's creating this sort of perfect storm for difficult decisions. You've seen that happen across Henderson State and Chatham. And I pulled this quote from the Chatham case because you can see it's cherry picked. I'll grant that. But the idea is, gosh, we were so inefficient in the way that we were approaching our budget that much of this was being tracked only in Excel spreadsheets, right? And the fact that so much of our tooling is truly not end to end, or it's not sort of done in a comprehensive in a manner in which we actually have security protocols is alarming. And I will sort of provide a personal anecdote. I think there is always the goal of providing that end-to-end solutioning, but we know that there are these stop gaps between our student information system and the LMS and the CRM and, our advancement CRM or our, career counseling tool like Handshake. And I've consistently seen in my own time in higher ed, right? I'm pulling reports from these various systems in order to merge them myself and then action on. And that's the type of work that we really think the no code solution set can help avoid. It can be your stopgap between all of the disparate technologies we know exist across a college. Now, to make matters interesting, I would say not worse by any means, but we're also now trying to operate in a totally new force of operation, right? Post-COVID, very few of us have moved back to fully in person. And that was predominantly the model of operation before. And so we know that collaboration has taken a hit. It is far more difficult. We have probably far more emails in our inboxes any given day because we're not walking down the hall to the various offices to do some of that collaborative work, project manage the next task, onboard employees, whatever it might be. And so there's a true need for a new approach to collaborative tooling, to collaborational work at the educational context. And that typically dictates technology. But we know that there's also been a huge rise in difficulty to attract and retain IT talent, right? And you all probably feel this, especially in that small college space, that gosh, we know that there's going to be a heavier reliance on technology in this hybrid environment. And we know that just in general, as we think about meeting student demand, security demands, we need that info tech sort of space. And so the more that we can help relieve you all of those responsibilities of maintaining these shadow systems or other tool sets, gosh, the more you'll have the opportunity to focus your time and energy where you really need to. So again, long-winded thought of, gosh, there's a huge call for efficiency across higher ed and particularly small colleges, and in an environment in which it's going to be hard to do so without the correct tool set. And so want to get your input again here just to understand what are some of the pressures that you individually or your team feel most concerned with as it pertains to small colleges. And again, please feel free to come off mute, give us your input. I know, especially right now, the enrollment cliff is hitting some colleges far harder than others. Others are saying, no, actually, we're growing enrollment. It's great. Or some of you have strategies to maintain enrollment exactly where it is. So, would also be curious to get some feedback on the trends that we're hearing and seeing externally. Funding challenges, not surprising here. I'll let a couple of those continue to roll in, but as you talk to funding challenges, are you seeing that, I guess, on the sort of grant funding side of things, state allocations, federal allocations? Are you seeing that in terms of enrollment declines, rising costs? Any input from the group, either off mute or in the chat? Yeah, Alan.
Yeah, thanks. At the small colleges I've been at, and I've been in a few of them now, we're not heavily grant funded, including the one right now. We're not heavily grant funded or relying even on federal dollars, even our except for like Pell Grants. But the funding challenges and the enrollment are really intertwined, right? Because we're heavily tuition dependent at this college that I've been at. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard to pick one versus the other. The flip side is when you say what are your teams most concerned with, I wasn't sure whether you meant IT teams who we're not. I mean, my software developers are not talking about enrollment declines. Everyone at the school should be, but they're not.
Yeah.
But they are talking about funding. So it depends on what you meant by team.
Yeah, Alan, it's a great push. And I think in this context, maybe thinking about your specific team, but that makes a lot of sense that your team isn't the enrollment team. And so they're going to focus on their day-to-day, even though we know that there's going to be some nuanced implications across teams and across departments.
And I do love that call out as well as, tying back to some of these larger scale initiatives for the school, right? All of it does impact each other. The registrations and all the way down to what kind of campaigns can we deliver on, what dollars can we spend to make the facilities even nicer, right? They all map together. And it's one of the most powerful things that I see constantly when I'm engaging with folks that are using Airtable as you bring all of these pieces together, you can start to create these relationships. And even if folks are not being explicitly told that their work is impacting those big drivers, it's still there. And like as a, leadership tier, you can understand the impact of your teams and each player and every single thing that they do and tie it back to, improve registration or, whatever else that it is in your sights as the larger initiatives that y'all are really chasing down that year. So there's a lot of fun nuance that we can bake in once you get everything together and start to create those relationships.
Awesome. All right, Matthew, we're ready for your questioning now. It's where have we seen this deployed, and Wendy's going to sort of take us through this story.
Yeah, so when Matt and I joined the team and really focused on, education and the needs and where no code and specifically Airtable in our case was deployed, we sent out a survey to our customers that we work with, and we got a lot of interesting results back. So if you could move on. So we surveyed 103 education leaders. The survey results came back with like 18 main use cases, and we bucketed those into 5 different categories. So operational efficiency was number 1. That was not surprising to us, as deploying no-code solutions can create a lot of operational efficiencies. But a lot of our customers are using, in the bucket of community engagement and relationship management, academic and program management, HR use cases, and then student success and career development. And of course, this is based on the people that responded to our survey. So we can dig in a little bit deeper on specific use cases next. So out of these different buckets, I would say general project management came out on top. And I feel like that can be sort of a catch-all sometimes for any sort of end-to-end workflow, like everything can sort of relate to project management, but that came out on top. We have a lot of customers using Airtable to deploy like event applications, calendar management, using us for strategic planning. CRM has been a really interesting one. I think, Matthew, you mentioned Genzabar. A lot of our customers are struggling getting access to data, and they want to create like a source of truth that can be used across applications when they're building things out. So the CRM aspect has been a really popular one. Under the academic and program management bucket, grants, I feel like every week we have a grant tracking conversation, program review. People are using us for online program management, kind of following that full workflow from like ideation on what programs they want to put out there, and then like course development all the way to delivery. Hiring and onboarding has been a popular one, just like making sure like new employees are coming in on a specific date. Have they signed the paperwork? Have they done these onboarding tasks, and like tracking that process from end to end? And then finally, student organization management, career services. So it's really incredible how no code can sort of fit any sort of workflow that you're thinking about at your university. Any questions on this? Okay, you can move to the next. And yeah, so like operational efficiency is really one that stands out. And the possibilities are endless. So if you feel some pain in a certain workflow, or like there may not be something out there that really supports a certain program or an idea that you have, you can absolutely look at no code to solve those challenges.
Well, say I got a question. I would not have thought project management when thinking about this. And you're talking about workflow, so it's like is this like forms that people can fill out, and then it goes into a workflow, and then like people approve it, and then it based on approval tracks it goes to somebody else's, and then the data, that approval data is stored somewhere, and then once it's approved, then it actually makes the change in the data. I mean, workflow can mean a lot of different things, right? And everybody, that's
Yeah.
a buzzword, kind of thing, in terms of a lot of them. Everybody say, well, you have workflow, but it's like, what does it actually do? Is it just approvals? Is it like they approve something and then once it's approved, the data gets changed in Airtable, or Airtable then goes changes it in the integration? Or can you talk a little bit about maybe a little more specific in terms of what workflow, maybe one of those workflows?
Matthew, this is such a good question. We always talk about this like Mexican standoff of like, what do you want it to do? Well, you tell us first. What does it do?
Yeah,
We'll do it. It's all of the above, right? Like there, from a logistical perspective of functionality, like there are forms, there's a relational database, there's sort of these drag and drop interface elements that go on top of all of that. And so our thought is, yeah, for the most part, it can really do whatever workflow you need it to do, given that we're able to take in information in what context you want it. We can build out a database that has relationships and schema built into it. And then on top of that, we can build a visualization, again, around any of those elements that you want to surface. And again, we view that at least as like three key components to any given workflow, whether that's approval, whether that's notification, whether that's application. There's sort of a huge swath of what's ultimately possible there.
Let me ask you this: is there any like I don't know. We're in education. We don't sometimes don't like to reinvent the wheel. I'd rather kind of what is another college doing, and why reinvent the wheel? Can we steal it? Are there examples out there? Like, is there like a showcase thing of something where we could say, hey, Berry College has used Airtable to do this workflow, blah blah blah. Yes, I want that. Put that in my workflow and tweak it to my thing or whatever. I mean, I guess it's like you said, it's the what do we want to do? Well, I don't know what I want to do. It's like man, it's wrapping your head around what can I use it for, kind of thing. It would be kind of are there examples out there where like a showcase kind of thing of specific functions, kind of things? Throwing that out there too.
Yeah. Wendy, do you want to take that one? I just sort of jumped on that last one.
Yeah, so we will address this later in the presentation, but we've created an education community to help facilitate sharing across higher education, sharing use cases, best practices, things like that, which we'll go into a little bit deeper later in the presentation. But yes, we do have like templates. Matt and I are advocating and actively working to build out specific use case examples just to showcase on our website what other colleges are doing, because that is a bit absent right now. So we've been working with our customers to get that information out there. But I mean, as you know, higher education is such a great collaborative environment. And our customers love to connect and share what they're doing. So if there's any idea that you have in mind, a project that you want to work on, feel free to reach out to Matt or I, and we can connect you with other customers. A lot of people have been sharing templates that they've built out.
Mhm.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, of course. I just dropped a link in there. So that's our customer success portal that we have out on our website. Lots of great examples. But of course, if you're looking for more, Matt and Wendy are your people for that.
Thanks, Brandy.
Yeah, of course. All right, more of the fun stuff. Are y'all ready? We're going to dig into a couple of really key examples that we are seeing out in the field, hopefully provide some inspiration for you. And when I think about this, I really want to anchor on some of the key value props, cost effectiveness, scalability, and again, back to what we've been talking about, that highly customizable solution that's really going to improve collaboration, centralize your data, whether it is an external resource, an Excel, or something that you've built yourselves, and then really be able to think about Airtable through the lens of it is a relational database, but it looks like a spreadsheet. So folks can update, access, create, define information really simply because it's something that looks familiar. Everyone knows how to use that. But the dynamic fields, and when I say relational database, like being able to take information that's living on one tab, another tab, maybe it's something that's completely living outside of it, and then starting to create those little connections between them. So we can start to relate data to each other and cross compare and slice and dice and view information differently. Again, AI baked in at every level. So you'll have AI that is there in that relational database layer, helping you to be able to create better fields, formulas, calculations, things that are going to eventually create new insights and information in these use cases, but also in whatever use case that you have. Now, on top of that relational database layer, we do have a logic layer built in. So that's going to be where you can create those workflows, full flexibility when it comes to any kind of rules or events that you want triggered based off of any information that's sitting in that data layer. And then on top of it, which is what we're going to look at today. So again, just a little teaser, it's that application layer. So making something that's really, really easy to use and interact with, that feels modern and fresh. If you're trying to get in front of students who are used to using the G Suite all the time, they want something that's very, just, it makes sense. It's pretty, it is easy to navigate, and that's that application layer. So being able to bring up information, put it all together into a very simple drag and drop, created, always easy to edit and update application. Now, everything in here is all related to each other. So again, as you make changes, no matter where you are, it automatically updates across the entire application, which is really powerful. So what we're looking at here is an example of, I want to say it's more like simplified fundraising and donor management. This one came up quite a bit, but the idea behind, being able to track donor history, segment your outreach by looking at various levels or different performance, being able to understand a whole bunch of different things, bringing it together and using automated reports for different types of meetings. So if I'm looking at this and I'm looking at budget and funding, and I really want to dig into the bits of what is costing what where, how do we bring that all together? How do we understand the dollars that we have gotten? And then how do we understand what that outgoing spend is, whether it's, looking at the actual grants and, where it's coming from, what's being taken out of the pool via projects, people activities, any other resources, physical IT equipment, that sort of thing, bringing it all together and getting that comprehensive narrative around your budget. Now, if we move on to the next one, we can see that CRM side of it. And again, the applications, every page is very easy to build out, but you'll see a calendar view here. And this is actually taking information from all across all of these different, things that we're managing too. So marketing campaigns or start dates and end dates. Maybe it's, different semesters, different big projects, priorities that y'all have. And then being able to drill into those calendars, you can do that at every level across this as well. So you can drill in, you can see specific individuals, you'll see notes, updates, and even AI suggestions based on what it is that you are actually looking to get out of the application. In this specific scenario that we're looking at, it's an interaction calendar, very heavily focused on, our folks, maybe donors, maybe students, maybe alum, actually looking at marketing campaigns that are going out. If they are looking at them, what is their engagement score? Should we set a follow-up date? Again, something that we can workflow in. If this person has an engagement score of greater than X number, set a date for 2 weeks out or 1 month out, whatever that timeline is and that threshold. So that way you aren't inundating people with outreach, but still being able to actively, you capture their interest at the right time and hopefully get them back in. Now, we can move on to the third example. So again, more beautiful reporting. All of these you can double click into, but this is really heavily focused on that, marketing campaign performance and metrics. So being able to actually see campaigns by status, by, click-throughs, understand the budget and the impact to overall funds, all the way down to like actual work that's being done to create those marketing campaigns. So some of the most interesting examples that I see in that space is really being able to say, okay, we have, we want to drive people to actually, register for classes this semester. So we're going to push out this new campaign. It's all about this new rebrand effort that we've done. All of that information historically has lived all over the place. In Airtable, you can do everything from DAM management. So all of your creative content there, have everyone putting information in, running their projects the way that they always do, report on individual performance, create those tasks to help drive the campaign development itself, and then actually be able to capture all of the information downstream as that campaign goes out, hits social media, goes out in emails, hits even, the billboards that are out there. I've seen this all the time. You're really trying to create that network and being able to tie back all of this information into the system. We can then generate reports like this and show, how did that actually play out? Did that marketing campaign successfully drive to what our key outcomes are, top to bottom and bottom to top? So you can reassess future campaigns and also, to Matt's earlier point, drive that collaboration across teams, whether they are working in an office together or they're, located across the state or actually, 100% remote. So a couple of different ways that we can visualize information. I showed you very brief examples here, but top 3 use cases that I'm seeing in regards to the space, really thinking about CRM management, donor management, thinking about, funding, campaign performance, and how that all ties back to itself, whether it's very, individual work or the absolute top performance metrics that we're looking at as it relates back to the university. So with that, I'm going to pass it back on over to Matt to walk us through some impact and value.
Yeah, and I'll say in any of these use cases or any of the ones that we have mentioned before, if you want to see those in action, absolutely let us know. We'll, as no surprise, give you sort of a leave behind to schedule some time with either Wendy and I to walk through specific use cases, but want to at least talk to some of the value some of our partners are seeing. And so to do that, I'll actually let Wendy take the stage.
We wanted to share just some, real life examples of universities that we work with and how building out a no-code solution for something that they were really challenged with has made a real impact on the day-to-day operations, impact on their staff and students. So in the first case study, this is Cal State University Channel Islands. They have an extended university that does degree completion, online programs, things like that. And they were really challenged with, tracking student interactions and program management around their extended university. They had fragmented data across the teams. They were doing a lot of manual processes in spreadsheets and email, just very decentralized communication. So they were really struggling with visibility on program performance. So what they did with Airtable was they created a centralized student profile base. And what this allowed them to do is any student that is interacting or has interest in the program, they were able to track all the interactions with those students, the programs that they were interested in, students that had dropped out and they wanted to re-enroll them to complete their degree. They had efforts around that. And so they pulled in information, student information from PeopleSoft, which it was very hard to get to verified data or consistent data at the university. And they centralized all the communication, all of the collaboration across the teams that were doing this work. And they really had a huge impact. This specifically impacted their psychology program, which has a lot of competition in the state and also across the US. But they had a 5x increase in program application processing. And they really believe that it was based on communication efforts and streamlining this process in Airtable. And they said that they had a 2x increase in staff capacity due to reduced manual processing and just having overall visibility into program performance, interactions and communication with students, a collaboration across the teams. So it can really make a big impact. And like for future state, they're exploring how AI can impact this even more. The next example is Columbia's Teacher College, and they were challenged with managing their institutional partnerships. They have very strong institutional partnerships, but really had a lack of visibility. They didn't have a real centralized system to manage this process, which led to like data duplication, administrative bottlenecks when things were going through approvals, and just limited collaboration across the teams because they were in spreadsheets, they were using sticky notes, emails were going back and forth, and it was just like really hard for the team to manage the day-to-day workflow. So the challenges were really around like siloed data, inefficient workflows across the teams. They didn't have visibility into who was really doing what, when updates were happening, when workflows were kind of kicked off to other teams. And again, like a lot of data duplication, which made everybody's job like less efficient. So based on building out like a program management application and Airtable and streamlining the workflows, getting all of the teams that are collaborating, whether it's their external partners or internal employees, everyone has visibility into what's happening. They have like automations kicking off to update records and notify people of tasks that are on their to-do list, and creating like a real workflow in the new solution.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wendy. I know folks are about to do the leave as we have to get to other meetings, and so know that we will happily send these slides across if there's anything that you want to review. Big and first thing to note, we do offer free Airtable licenses. So if you ever do want to go and get your feet wet, start to play around with various use cases, explore some of those templates, we absolutely recommend it. Few QR codes for you here in terms of joining that online user group. If you want to have a conversation with Wendy and I about any of what you've heard today or beyond just general no code and what we think, happy to always continue to talk at you as long as you'll let us. And then, of course, any learnings as you do get up and running, you'll have access to our Airtable Academy. Biggest thing is a huge thanks for spending some time with us today, learning a little bit more about the no-code space and how we view it at Airtable. Very much open to feedback. Want to hear from you all in terms of where we can drive more value, be more pointed with our conversations, and make sure any continued conversations are well worth your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And about 2 minutes left. It was very informative. I would be remiss if I didn't give a quick shout out to Eric. He's one of the organizers of No Code New York City. So he popped on just to see what we were doing here. So I appreciate you popping in, brother. And hopefully you guys can connect, and I'll probably try to arrange that. But yes, thank you so much. I'm sure we're gonna get this posted, the video posted up to the group, and I'm sure if folks have questions, I'm sure they'll reach out. But thank you again for doing this. Appreciate it.
Genuinely a pleasure. Thank you all.
So fun. Thanks, y'all.
Now take care.